All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This time for Sunday Night Football. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's the Los Angeles Chargers. It's Week 10. I'm not the face you expected, but I'm the face you recognize. Chuck, who normally does these Sunday night live streams, he is off today, and I'm filling in for him. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. This is a live stream, so you guys will drive the show. You put your questions in the chat. I will answer them along the way, and it'll be more of a relaxed vibe. I have the games on here. It's halftime in most of the games. I think halftime in all three of the games. But we'll talk about the games that are ongoing as we break down tonight's slate. So here's what we'll do. Basically, I'm going to switch it up a little bit for this video. It'll be similar to what you guys have seen me do during the week with the Monday and Thursday streams. It'll be a little bit similar to what Chuck does. But I also wrote the daily plug for today. Chuck is completely off today. And what we'll do is I'm going to pretend like I'm a member at OccupyFantasy.com, and I will use the daily plug and the Occupy model, and we'll build some lineups on stream. And if you guys like that, let me know. So JPT in the chat says a must watch. Thank you, JPT. Your commission check will be in the mail for that. Eli, what's up, man? Good to see you. Always glad to see you watching these videos. Again, you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. I'll be here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how many questions that you do have. So just let me know. All right, let's go to the daily plug, occupyfantasy.com. And I'll just show you how I would digest it and how I would start building. We're going to focus on hand building here since a vast majority of you are hand builders. We've done videos in the past. You guys have seen it on the channel by now, I'm sure. As long as you're somewhat of a returning viewer, how to build NFL Showdown lineups using our model and our builder. It's about an hour-long video. You'll see on the channel. It's linked in this description as well. So go watch that if you haven't watched it already. All right, daily plug. Nice little scenery in the cover photo. So let's scroll down. This is going to lay the land for tonight's game. So Chargers 3-point favorites, totals 45 points. Pretty tight game. Decent total, 45 points. And as I do in the weekly videos, the Monday and Thursday night videos, we talk about the injuries to start. So for Pittsburgh, Scotty Miller remains out. Doesn't matter, doesn't play much. Their left guard, Isaac Samalo, is out. So that's a bit of a downgrade to the Pittsburgh offense with them missing their left guard. We almost were going to downgrade the Pittsburgh defense. Jabril Peppers, their free safety, is out. But the starting free safety, Chuck Clark, returns. They both missed last week. Or I think just Clark missed last week. He's returning, so no difference there. They get him back. The real news for this game is the health of the Chargers' offensive line. And if you've watched NFL at all this season, you know how badly the Chargers have struggled just to keep some sort of starting offensive five at the line. And tonight, they're back to their old tricks because Joe Alt, their stud tackle, he's out. He was placed on injured reserve this week. Guess what? They're also missing their right tackle, Bobby Hart. So yeah, that's two of the most important positions on offense down. So we're going to downgrade the Chargers offense tonight. The Chargers slot cornerback, Tarheeb Still, is doubtful, unlikely to play. So guys running routes out of the slot, that would mostly be Calvin Austin, maybe a little bit of the tight ends as well. So we have some interesting injury situations to digest tonight. MVP Ken says Metcalf at captain build. If you're an Occupy Fantasy member, you probably saw he's rated pretty highly in the model tonight. So I do like that idea. All right, so we have the injuries. Now let's go down. Let's skip the rankings for a second. These are the rankings if you're just building. You're not trying to look at the model. You need a very quick roadmap to who to play and which contest types. You can use the rankings in the daily plug. Instead, let's go to the slate thoughts. So talked about the storyline being the absence of Joe Alt and Bobby Hart. So what do we do here? If you have projections, if you have our Occupy model, if you have our lineup builder, basically what you want to do is subtract some amount of points from the Chargers players because most of the time, offensive line injuries are not factored into basic fantasy projections. And even our model doesn't factor them in because it's so difficult to backtest historical injury data. So you have to kind of do it yourself. So I would say 10% drop at worst, or at least to all of the Chargers' offensive skill position players with them down to offensive linemen. And if you do that, if you drop them by 10%, and you could argue for more, you're going to end up with, despite the Chargers having more players ranking highly than Pittsburgh players for tonight's game, whether it's in the model or in basic industry projections, you'll probably end up with Pittsburgh players ranking a little higher now after that adjustment. So by doing that, I think it'll be a little bit different than the field already. Outside of the offensive line, there's really no significant injuries or role changes. And at this point, week 10, we can look at what these teams have done in recent weeks, and that's what this bullet point is discussing, and pretty confidently project how we expect most of the players to play tonight, how often they'll play. Now, obviously, the big question is how Pittsburgh will utilize their tight ends, but even they've been somewhat consistent. We say that, and Arthur Smith will throw us a curveball tonight. Let's talk about the running back situations for both teams really quickly. And again, this is why we read through the slate thoughts, just to maybe get some more context to the guys that are playing tonight. So Kamani Vidal has been the starting running back since Omarion Hampton went down with that injury. And if you look at just his box scores, let's go to DraftKings, and we'll look at Kamani Vidal. We'll see that, he started week 6, 7, 8, 9, and he's had 2 poor games, 3 fantasy points, 7.5 fantasy points, and 2 games of 22-plus DraftKings points. You may say, oh, he's very hit or miss. And yeah, that's true, but it's been kind of results-based. And that's what this bullet point is saying. Despite his fantasy points fluctuating, his role really hasn't changed. He's played 64% or 64% plus of the snaps in all 4 games. He's handled 53% plus of the running back touches in all of those games. Just sometimes he gets there, sometimes he doesn't. And him losing offensive linemen is not going to help tonight. But we think he'll be the lowest owned of the core guys at the top of the salary board on DraftKings. So let's go back to DraftKings. So these guys, Herbert, Rodgers, McConkey, Warren, Vidal, we think he'll be the lowest of the group. So if you're looking for some differentiation at the top, maybe it's Kamani Vidal. Let's go back now, and let's look at the Pittsburgh running back situation. And since Jaylen Warren returned, remember he missed, somewhat surprisingly, that London game a few weeks ago. Since he's returned 4 games ago, the Pittsburgh running back workload has been pretty evenly split 60-40 every single game. Evenly, I'll say pretty consistently split 60-40 in every game. But these guys get a ton of work in the passing game as well. I mean, you look at their target totals, and let's see here. Jaylen Warren, last 4 games, we have, where you are, 2 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets, 2 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, getting work in the passing game. We'll go down to his backfield mate, Kenneth Gainwell, also getting work in the passing game. 5 targets, 2 targets, 2 targets, 6 targets, 6 targets, 5. So both these guys are viable. We need some value on this slate, so Gainwell's certainly in play. And depending on how you build lineups, you could play both Pittsburgh running backs in the same lineup. Geek says audio is low. I don't know if that's true. It might be your side. Someone else let me know in the chat if my audio is low. I'm at max volume, so I don't think I can even turn it up any higher. You guys let me know. Someone else in the chat confirm if the audio is low or not, or confirm that the audio is good. We'll take a quick sec. Anyone want to confirm the audio in the chat? Let me know. All right. What was next to discuss in the Daily Plug? It's the Pittsburgh receiving room, both wide receiver and tight end. So Calvin Austin missed a few games. He returned a couple of games ago. Here are the targets behind DK Metcalf. We know DK Metcalf is the leader there. After DK Metcalf, it was Calvin Austin 12 targets in the last 2 games. Jonnu Smith 8, Freiermuth 8, Roman Wilson 7, which is somewhat surprising. Darnell Washington 6, and then Ben Skoranek 1. So a lot of guys getting work here. And you look at the prices of all these guys. Let's look at their flex pricing. Joanne says, sounds great. So, and so does JPT. So Geek must be on your side. Make sure you turn the volume up or check your headphones. All right. Calvin Austin is 6,200. So he's the priciest of the group. You go down, Freiermuth 3,400, Jonnu 3,200, Washington 3,000, and then Roman Wilson 2,000. So despite the Chargers being favored in this game, builds will be relatively even on both sites in terms of how many players per lineup. 4-2s in either direction will be about the same frequency from the field, just because all the value is on the Pittsburgh side. So just keep that in mind. All right. Geek Hippie says probably at his end. So yeah, I would suggest checking that first next time before putting in the chat and freaking me out. All right. So we did the slate notes. We talked about the injuries. Let's build a low risk lineup. 50-50s, double ups, head to heads. We talk about the general strategy. We try to lock up all the scoring, and then we turn that into what does it look like for this slate specifically. And it says playing both quarterbacks and running backs leaves very little in salary. So you have the choice of leaving out Kamani Vidal or playing Jonnu Smith at captain. And Jonnu Smith at captain sounds kind of crazy, but you see that he's second or third on the team in targets, and he's going to be a popular value. It's not that bad of an option. Let's see what both look like. So we played Jonnu at captain. In a low-scoring game, this might be okay. Herbert, Rodgers, Warren, Vidal, 7,200. We could play Rondé Gatson Very popular play on this slate at tight end. So I kind of like this actually if you want to play all 4 guys. If you didn't play Jonnu at captain, you played Herbert, the most popular captain. Rodgers, Warren, leave out Vidal. That leaves 5,100 left per player. We could play a couple kickers. 5,100, that doesn't do much. Let's get Jonnu in there over Cameron Dicker maybe. And at least 73, we go back to Gadsden. So that's really the decision you're making in low-risk contests tonight. 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads. Let's see what it looks like on FanDuel. In the meantime, let's check the scores of the games really quickly. All right, second half starting in San Francisco. They're in the red zone. Interesting. Seattle absolutely blowing out Arizona. I posted this in Discord. JSN would have 300, 400 yards per game if there was any competition in any Seattle matchup. Seems like they're up 30 by the third quarter in every game so far. So I would love to see them in a competitive game for once. All right, anyways. Let's go with the 4. Let's put all 4 guys in and see what it looks like. Vidal, Rodgers, Warren. A little more viable on FanDuel because of the pricing. 4,250 left per player. 4,400. Darnell. Yeah, you could do that. If you leave out Kamani, you play Jonnu Smith. Play a kicker. Let's play Dicker or Boswell. Play 2 kickers, leave some salary. There's some options there. I actually don't mind it. On FanDuel, where it's half-point PPR scoring, you don't really want to play a value captain or value MVP in low-risk contests. You want to just get as many points as possible as you can. So, yeah, it's a little easier on here to fit all 4 in, so I think I would do that on this site. San Francisco down at the 1. Use check. If you guys played use check in maybe Showdown. All right. Let's see here. High-risk contest. Let's go back to the Daily Plug. And let's see. Small field high-risk strategy. So less than 500 players in your GPP. What does it look like? Normally, we don't want a popular captain. Fill 4 of your flex spots with high floor, high owned, low risk options. The final flex spot should be a low 20% or less player. Don't worry about leaving salary in small field GPPs. And it's kind of similar tonight. And I think basically what I wrote here, and you can read, I'll leave it on screen here. Again, you get this every single primetime showdown slate if you're not a member of OccupyFantasy.com. But Justin Herbert's going to be extremely popular tonight. And you could certainly play him at captain. The problem is we don't have many low-owned guys we really like. Let's go to the model here. This ranks every player on FanDuel and DraftKings. And if we sort by DraftKings salary, and we look at DK percentages, their DraftKings flex percentage, we scroll down, we see, all right, the defenses are somewhat unpopular. So is Pat Freiermuth. And then it's basically all the trash plays. Washington, 4%. Roman Wilson, 11%. Not bad. So that's really it, though. We don't have many guys that are going to get a ton of targets here. So I really think, unless you like one of those guys specifically and you want to play them with Herbert, but if you play Herbert at captain, you're going to end up wanting to play probably 2 low-owned guys. And it's really thin to play 2 low-owned guys tonight. So as a result, I think you just play a low-owned captain in small field GPPs, and that's what the plug was getting at here. And it makes it much easier to make a better and differentiated high-risk lineup tonight for small field GPPs. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see. Let's see what the model likes, right? So let's sort by DraftKings OF Index. The model likes McConkey, Metcalf. I know someone in the chat, MVP Ken says Metcalf at captain. Let's say we downgrade the Chargers guys for the offensive line injuries, and we play Metcalf at captain. Metcalf, 11% captain. That's very reasonable. Let's go back to DraftKings. Let's clear this out. Let's put DK Metcalf at captain. We want to pair him with his quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. Maybe we play Kamani Vidal, lower owned amongst these other guys. We'll play Ladd McConkey. He's top of the model as well. We can pair this with, let's say, Freiermuth as a pivot away from Jonnu Smith. Or we could just go Jonnu. This might be, actually, let's go Jonnu. I think this is probably safe enough and differentiated enough. 6,400 left per player. We play Calvin Austin. We probably don't want 3 pass catchers, one of them at captain. We could drop down to, let's say, Cameron Dicker. That leaves 1,000 on the table. That's a lot on the table. Can we upgrade Vidal? We could to Warren. Let's see what that looks like. We play Warren. Now we have a 4-2 Pittsburgh build. McConkey, Dicker. We could go to Boswell here for a Pittsburgh onslaught if we really believe the offensive line injuries. So that's a great way to build a Metcalf lineup, some kind of start like this. All right, and Jermaine says best FanDuel captain. So if we look at what the plug says for FanDuel for small field, again, this is less than 500 player GPPs. It says on FanDuel, Herbert will likely exceed 50% MVP ownership in small field GPPs. Our model agrees, but remember the model is not taking into account the offensive line injuries. There is an easy path for Steelers heavy or Steelers MVP lineups, and that applies to both sites. So let's go back to the model. Let's sort by FanDuel this time. And remember, it is different OF index values for DraftKings and FanDuel because of the scoring and the pricing. So we could go Lab McConkey, but we could go DK Metcalf or Aaron Rodgers here too. The model likes Metcalf. Let's see what Metcalf looks like over here. We'll clear. We'll go DK Metcalf at MVP. Pair him with Rodgers. Jalen Warren. Who are the highest owned guys here? Let's see. Let's go back to here. FanDuel ownership. Warren, Armando Gadsden, Jonnu Smith. Let's go with those two guys and let's see what it looks like really quickly. So Armando Gadsden, 78. Jonnu Smith, 44. Then we could go back to Quentin Johnson. I don't know about that. This is pretty tough here. That doesn't leave us much. Instead, let's go, because McConkey's really expensive on FanDuel. If we went double quarterback, what would that leave us? Minus 3,000, minus 3,300. No, I hate that. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to Gadsden instead of Jonnu. Who does our model like as a value on FanDuel? So FanDuel OF index. Let's see. We're looking. FanDuel. Jared Patterson, Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell's interesting. Let's try Gainwell. 5,800. That leaves 9K. We could play Keenan Allen, and that would be fine. Then we have a 4-2 Pittsburgh build. I think that's differentiated enough, certainly, without playing Justin Herbert. Jake says Herbert captain with double kicker going to be popular. It leaves you decent salary for 3 spots left. Yeah, I think so. Both kickers are going to be popular. Herbert is going to be a popular captain or MVP on either site. And the fact that we don't have much value, that is very desirable. I think that start will be pretty popular. And the fact that Jermaine followed it up and agreed, it probably is. Not saying that's a bad thing. It's saying that if you two guys are probably thinking that, a good majority of people are probably thinking that. So I would look to avoid that start if you're looking to be different in your first 3 spots. Because we look at our model, and we have it sorted by FanDuel salary now, and we see Cameron Dicker, 30% flex on FanDuel. We see Boswell, 30% flex. Both these guys are near 25% on DraftKings. And in smaller contests, they probably get bumped up even more. So it's very clear what the field is going to try to do tonight. Because the value is not that great, they're going to get double kickers and maybe leave out one or two of these guys near the top. We think Fidal could be one. McConkey will be the other one on FanDuel. So, yeah, it's going to be a popular construction. All right, let's see. We got anything else going on in these games? All right, Arizona gets an interception. Imagine that comeback. San Francisco scored to get the game within 7. Brian Robinson scored, it looks like. Now Arizona's in the red zone again. Let's see if they can get some fantasy scoring, some garbage time here in the second half. All right. Questions. I think we talked about a good amount of stuff here. You guys have questions. I'll stick around. Right now, it's been 18 minutes. I'll at least stick around until 6:20. That's 2 more minutes. I see we got 70 plus people watching. If you're just watching, say hi in the chat. And if you have questions, the more questions you have, the longer this show will go, the more information that I will give out. My notes are pretty much done here. So I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. If you guys have questions, I will answer them. Matthew Stafford with his patented sidearm throw to Kyren Williams. I don't know if I'm ahead of you guys or behind. Same. Hard to say. Practice a little play-by-play here. Arizona going for the end zone. Incomplete. All right. Still 38-7. Jake says, did you talk about Jarrett Patterson yet? No, I did not, actually. So, despite Vidal playing 64% plus of the snaps, the guy that's been picking up the slack since Hassan Haskins went down has been Jarrett Patterson. Let's go to Jarrett Patterson. Let's pull up his game log. Well, let's look at the news really quickly. Elevated him from the practice squad, so he will be the backup running back again. And he's been relatively productive. I mean, we can pretty much count on at least 2 points, but probably 3 to 4 points from Patterson. Not going to be much in the receiving game. Maybe he sneaks a touchdown, but pretty much a high floor for his price tag. low ceiling type of guy. So I really think it depends on the type of lineup you're building. And maybe if you're looking for that upside in a large field GPP, you don't play him with Kamani Vidal. Eli says, with the defenses less owned, do you not recommend a running back captain? No, that's certainly fine, especially on the Pittsburgh side, because they catch so many passes, right? You don't need your typical running back defense game script. And Vidal will be low owned at captain too. So you can play. You don't have to force in a defense with your running back captain. Smokey says, if playing Metcalf at captain, is it fine to fade Aaron Rodgers in that lineup? Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Rodgers not really going to run the ball. Herbert will run, and I think most people who build showdown lineups will build with correlation. Most optimizers and simulations will build with correlation in mind. So it'll almost automatically pair DK Metcalf with Aaron Rodgers. A good way to get different is to switch that up and go with Justin Herbert and just play a one quarterback lineup with Metcalf. I like that as an idea to get different if you don't like playing a bunch of low-owned guys or leaving salary. Ron, what's up, Ron? What about a contest of about 3,000 people single entry? Is it different? Yeah, you're basically playing the lottery at that point, right? Yeah, you're on an even playing field with every other person in that contest. Every person only has one lineup, but you still have to beat 2,999 people to get the best prize. Any other prize is, especially with the rake nowadays, it's really not worth playing. If you played that contest, you would win roughly on average, if you were an average player, once every 3,000 days, which is like once every 10 years. I would either play more lineups. Like if you have a bunch of single entries into your portfolio for tonight, that's fine. But if you're just playing one lineup, you're much better off. You have a much higher ROI, long-term expectation just playing a 500 player, 100 player, 200 player. So if you're going to play it regardless, the strategy is play more low-owned guys, play a low-owned captain. Hope that's the right path tonight. No, Eli, I don't think Warren and Gainwell lineups together will be popular. Gainwell, we have somewhat popular, 20%-ish on both sides, but most people won't play them together. So I think that's a decent way to get different. And I think we talked about here in the slate notes. Yeah, because both guys get a ton of work, it's viable to play both in the same lineup. Jenna, what's up? Jenna says, fade both quarterbacks. You certainly could. And I think if this game goes under the total, shout out to my Millie win. You play Ladd McConkey at captain or one of the running backs. Play a defense. Anytime you fade both quarterbacks, it's like a 98% chance that a defense is in the winning lineup when a quarterback is not present. So if you fade both quarterbacks, you think the offensive line injuries bite both teams. Play a receiver that can catch passes and or running back at captain, and you have to play a defense in flex. So I do think that is a great idea tonight. It's one of the best ways to get different. If we go down to the high-risk section, the large field section, and we look at outside of captain differentiation, aka not playing McConkey or Herbert, here's some lineup building ideas for leverage. Lean into the belief that the Chargers will struggle with the offensive line. You play Pittsburgh heavy. Build for the under in general, and that's what the fading in both quarterback idea would do. If neither quarterback gets there, the game likely goes way under the total, and a defense is more likely to end up in the optimal lineup. Another way is play Pittsburgh's defense in the flex with Herbert captain MVP. Most optimizers simulations won't do that. Herbert can still get there if it's a low-scoring game, or he just gets there with a couple touchdown passes or runs some more. So, what's the most money you leave on the table on this slate, says Smokey. The more, if you have a defense, I would leave up to like 4,000 or 5,000 if I'm building a bunch of lineups. Would I hand build a $4,000 leftover lineup? No. But I'll show you guys really quickly. Like if we go with the Millie construction, and this is again, for those who aren't aware, this is the lineup construction I used to win the million back in the Super Bowl. It's something like this. So it would be McConkey, Chargers D, Vidal, maybe Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, and this is just something very brief. And then Jalen Warren, since he catches passes. I don't know if I would do that, though. Maybe it would be Keenan Allen. That's actually the better play. So something like this, an option. All right, but as far as the next question from Chris, says, can you build a Quentin Johnston captain lineup on DK? We have him at 1% captain, so certainly a low-owned differentiated captain. Quentin Johnston, he's very touchdown dependent. We're going to want to pair him with Herbert. And then you go from there, 7,000 left per player. You can play Jalen Warren. You can play DK Metcalf. Fit in a value like Jonnu Smith. 7,400 left per player. You could go Gadsden, and that might be enough. The rest of the guys are going to be extremely popular, so most Quentin Johnston lineups might look like this. But if it's a smaller contest, I think it's okay. Jake says, if you had to pick which Chargers wide receiver, you can only pick one. Which one do you like best? I'm gonna side with the model and say Lad McConkey. So definitely Lad. Oh, Trey McBride in the end zone. His new best friend, Jacoby Brissett. All right, guys. 6:25. Final questions. Get them in. If you have any more questions that I don't answer here, hop in our Discord after this. We'll be live through lock tonight, occupiedfantasy.com/Discord. Become a member here on YouTube. It's like $1.99 a month. If you don't want to become a member of our website, if you are a member of our website, just send us an email. And if you don't have access, we'll get you Discord access. Dark says, do you have a preference on Pittsburgh tight end? Oh, man, I wish I could talk to Arthur Smith before every Pittsburgh Showdown slate. But let's just see what the model says. So on DraftKings, so Gadsden, first of all, for all tight ends, it's Gadsden. But the model likes Darnell Washington and then Freiermuth and then Jonnu, which is the opposite of ownership. So that's interesting. That's extremely interesting. So I think going with one of these guys is a good differentiated option. And as we said in the plug, you can look at this up yourself in the box scores. But decent targets. This is over 2 games. So Darnell Washington, 3 targets per game. Freiermuth, 4 targets per game. Jonnu, 4 targets per game. So not much different than Jonnu, despite much lower ownership. So maybe the model is picking up on that. And Comment God says he likes the big one, Washington. That dude is massive. Debo is in the end zone for the Commanders to cut the lead to 15. All right, guys, that'll do it. Appreciate you watching. Daily plugs up on the site. The model will continue to be updated with ownership and any inactives news, but we'll get here in about 25 minutes. So make sure you refresh that and check it out, occupiedfantasy.com. Memberships as low as $7 per week. We'd love to have you. You get access to all sports. If you came here from the NBA live stream before this, you get access to the NBA model. You get access to the PGA model, MMA write-ups, MMA model, as low as $7 per week at occupiedfantasy.com. Appreciate you all watching. Thanks for, there's a lot of things you can be doing on Sunday. Watching me in place of Chuck is appreciated. So thank you. So good luck tonight, and everyone enjoy the Steelers and Chargers showdown slate.